Hi, I'm Katie Kohler from Child Bereavement UK, where I'm Deputy Director of Bereavement Services and Education. Grief is really the emotional response when somebody has been bereaved of somebody significant to them. I think grief in children is different from that in adults for a number of reasons, really. Children tend to dip in and out of their grief, and we talk about them puddle jumping, because one minute they can be almost consumed by their grief and very, very, very upset, and then the next minute they're saying, can I go outside to play football or can I watch the telly? I think a child's response is very dependent on their understanding of death and of what's happened and the information that's available. So a young child, used to be thought that children under about 6 months wouldn't really show much reaction when somebody died, but actually children younger than 6 months still are going to be aware of the emotional environment. So if it's not, they'll obviously be affected if it's a main caretaker who has died, but even if it isn't, if it's a main caretaker who's been affected by bereavement, the emotional atmosphere is going to be different. A child of sort of 4 to 5 will ask lots of questions. It's the age of questioning. They'll want to know an awful lot about what happened and will hopefully in the right environment feel that they can ask the questions that they need to. Teenagers, I think one of the surprising things about teenagers is that they can become very affected by the death of a peer, and sometimes that's not understood by the adults around them. Adults will say things like, well, they didn't really know that child in the same year at school but didn't really know them. In society we have a great difficulty in talking about death anyway, and we make things difficult for children because we're not using the words dead and died, and euphemisms such as gone to sleep or gone to the angels is not always helpful for children. We need to use the right vocabulary. It's not surprising that sometimes children have difficulties going to sleep if they've been told that somebody who's died has gone to sleep. If you're struggling with approaching the topic of death with a child, particularly if you've recently been bereaved, it can be helpful to think about it in terms of, or use day-to-day opportunities to discuss it, such as you've got some flowers in the front room and you see that they're slowly wilting. To recognise the difference between what a flower is like when it's alive and when it's dead, and also opportunities perhaps when you're out for a walk and you see an animal that's dead, even if it's just a worm or an insect, to be able to say that actually it's dead, gives you the opportunity to use the correct terminology, and to understand the difference between something that's alive and something that's dead. So something that's dead doesn't move, it doesn't need any food. So using those kind of opportunities can help a child understand the concept of death. And it's easier sometimes to do it in that kind of environment than in relation to somebody who's close to you that has died. Parents often try to, and as adults in general, we try to protect children, and I think that sometimes that actually gets in the way because they're not given information, and we know that actually what children aren't told they make up, so they can often work out that something's happened but they don't know exactly what, and they learn very quickly not to ask questions if it upsets the adults around them, so therefore they can't ask the questions that they need answers to. We know that most bereaved children are going to find enough support just by having the understanding of the adults around them in their environment, by having the opportunity to express how they feel, by being in an open environment that encourages them to ask questions and to get the answers that they need from the adults around them.